Hey guys, it's Adam from LUCIDPIXUL, and welcome to my first art talk of 2024. Although this first video is not the one that I originally intended. I actually recorded and did the artwork for an entirely separate art talk. It's all edited and ready to go. But I decided to do this one first, since this is a topic that involves me in a very profound way, being a YouTuber. But it's also my profession. What I do as a profession might offer some insight into what's going on with a lot of these huge YouTubers from different venues, different walks of life, different expertise, who are starting to either really change things around, change their whole philosophy and approach towards the work, or just pulling out entirely and saying, you know what, I'm throwing in the towel, this isn't working out for me. Without trying to sound like a know-it-all, I did see this coming a long time ago. I saw this when I first started my YouTube journey, which was 10, 12 years ago, something like that. I had already had decades of experience working in, succeeding, and failing in many ways in a creative, artistic field. And as such, I had to learn how to navigate a lot of the ups and downs. I had to learn how to find my place in this big, complicated world of trying to make a living out of something that you create from your head, which can feel very, very not cut and dry. And this is very often why so many people who have dreams and aspirations to work in a creative field, in an artistic field, at a certain point, make a decision to either not make it their main career and focus on breadwinning somewhere else, or they just put up the fight, they improve their patience level, they invest more of their energy towards their patience, and they grind it out until eventually things start to take shape, as I did in my career. I've had many opportunities to kind of throw in the towel and say, you know what, this isn't for me. But too much of my identity was wrapped up in being an artist that I couldn't give up on it. So I decided to take the patient route. I decided to take a little bit of a struggle that came along with my career, absorb some punches, but then I came out the other end in a stable and happy place. And I want to share with you, as an aspiring artist, as a content creator on YouTube, as anybody trying to make a name for themselves on social media, any of the likes, anybody who is forging their own artistic and or creative path. And I consider YouTubers people in that creative path, regardless of whether or not your main expertise is photography or cinematography like Peter McKinnon or Casey Neistat. But if you're somebody who's more into programming and documentary type stuff like Tom Scott, who's also pulled out, or That's Just a Theory, or recently I just saw a video by Caleb Pike. There's a full-time filmmaker. A lot of them are starting to sell their businesses, move on, take different paths and stuff like that. I consider all of these people my kindred spirits as far as creators are concerned, because we are in the creative field. And I just happened to have a second creative career, which is teaching and producing art professionally. And I want to start by offering a little bit of a perspective that a lot of creators online might not have realized when they first started their career. Much like everybody else, when I started my YouTube journey, I started it by turning on a webcam, putting on a headset, recording myself, and then making the decision to publish it. And I did it once, I did it twice, and then before you knew it, I started a pattern. And regardless of whether or not it brought any kind of success and any kind of attention, because I had produced dozens and dozens of videos before anybody even knew me, before anybody even recognized me at all, and I'm talking about a minimal number of people, I had already started to accumulate a bit of a rhythm in my life. And because it was so new and it was so fresh and I was so accustomed to doing things on my own as an artist, it wasn't much of a stretch for me. But as time passed, I started to make certain realizations. Now, thanks to my career path and thanks to my experiences, I recognized very early on certain traps that a lot of extremely well-established and very celebrated YouTubers are starting to realize now, because they haven't encountered this obstacle. And that was, at a certain point, going back 7-8 years, I started to realize that YouTube as a platform, or at least what I believed it was and what I thought I needed to be to succeed as a YouTuber, was starting to get pulled away from me, where I started to become sensitive to the algorithms, to the hashtags, to the need to produce thumbnails in a certain way to get attention, to what kind of content that I produce. And I started to realize quickly that I was starting too much to adapt myself to this ever-changing, ever-evolving demand. Make your videos this long. Edit your videos like this. Make sure the first 10 seconds of your videos do this. Make sure your thumbnails look like that and have this kind of contrast and saturation. If you want to get people's attention, you need to do it this way. Make sure all of the metadata is on point. Make sure you're spreading yourself out over different types of social media and blah, blah, blah. And I started to very quickly realize, number one, if I go down this path, much like I'd experienced in creative paths in the past, I was going to start to burn myself out. And number two, I was starting to feel a loss of ownership over my own content. And one of the main allures, one of the main draws of YouTube in general is that this is my baby. This is my place, my platform. I can do whatever I want. But then you start to realize I'm not doing whatever I want. I'm doing what the algorithm wants me to do. And I found, even to this day, I find it very, very, I find it very telling how so many creators, how many creative people, how many YouTubers will very openly say, click the like button. It helps the algorithm, or subscribe for the algorithm. It's a tongue-in-cheek way of saying, yeah, no, I recognize that my boss is a computer. Just do whatever the computer wants just for the sake of helping my channel grow. But that's a problem, because a computer has no limit to their demand. A computer has no soul, no empathy, no creative cares whatsoever, no respect for the artistic process, no respect for the integrity of the artist, their pace, their tempo, their rhythm, what inspires them, what keeps them going, what fuels them and helps that energy to be rejuvenated after they've put so much of themselves into something. An algorithm doesn't care. It's very much like dating a narcissist. It's like dating a narcissist. Somebody or something that just wants you to keep pumping your energy into this relationship. And that brings me to one of my key points about being a creator. Eventually, one day, you're going to realize that if you want to make a long-term commitment, a long-term career in the artistic field, in a creator's field, your personality, your livelihood, your sense of identity needs to be authentically connected to what it is that you do. Because as a creator, what you're doing is you're taking your own personal life energy, you're taking your experiences, you're taking your lessons, you're taking your inspirations, and you're harnessing it and giving it to other people. So the act of creation, if you look at the Peter McKinnon's video, if you look at Casey Neistat's video, if you watch Tom Scott's video, if you watch Caleb Pike's video, if you watch Full-Time Filmmaker, if you watch any of these guys, they're taking something from inside and they're sharing it with their audience. That's a giving action. And the very definition of burning out is if you keep giving and that energy doesn't get reciprocated, it doesn't get refilled, if there isn't a reward at the end of that, then all you are is depleting yourself. And it reaches a certain breaking point. If your boss, I'm putting this in very thick quotation marks, if your boss is a computer, it doesn't care. If your boss is an algorithm, if you burn out, okay, then I'll find my supply from somewhere else. And I'm using the word supply like that because I'm tapping into the term narcissistic supply. In a narcissistic relationship, you are allured into this relationship with the promise of something in return. Charm, romance, fun, excitement. And at a certain point, you start to say, you know what? I need something in return because all I feel is depleted all the time. All I'm doing is constantly pumping my energy into something. And in order to try to get that carrot at the end of the stick, you're starting to ask me for things that I just can't manage. Now, had your boss been a person with compassion and empathy, had your boss been a partner that cares and reciprocates that giving action, then they say, okay, no, that's cool. Listen, we'll sit down, we'll find a compromise. I still need this, but you need this. Why don't we work this out and we'll figure something out that's mutually beneficial? But that's not how narcissists work. A narcissist will say, okay, fine, bye. But my livelihood is tapped into this. Everything. I quit my job. This is my sole source of income. I've got kids. I've got a family to take care of. But I can't spend any time with my family because I'm constantly giving in to you. I'm constantly worrying about what you need. You're constantly keeping me pumping my energy into this relationship. I need something in return. Okay. And what's your point? Well, my point is, I can't sustain this. Okay, bye. But I've dedicated 15 years of my life to you. You're just going to say, okay, bye? Have I not answered your question already? Do you want to keep doing this or not? And then before the door is closed, your replacement is already walking in through the door. In fact, when it comes to YouTube, you don't have one replacement walking in through the door. You have 1 million replacements walking in through the door. And it's at that point that a lot of these YouTubers are starting to realize, as you would in a relationship with a narcissistic person, is that you never mattered to start off with. You never mattered. All of that sacrifice, all of that change of identity, all of that giving of yourself, all of that compromise that only you have made all these years was a one-sided deal. And YouTube, or that shitty partner that you just happen to find yourself saddled with, never gave a shit in the first place. And that is a very hard pill to swallow for somebody who's giving of themselves. A creator is giving of themselves. To them, they put their heart and soul into everything they do. These are real people with real feelings that are sharing really personal things. I mean, I can relate to Matti Haapoja. I can relate to Peter Lindgren. I can relate to all of these other YouTubers that sit down, and when they share their feelings and when they share their vulnerability, they're not just doing so for the clicks. There's some real, genuine human emotion coming out of that. These are real people that are really giving of themselves. That's why they started in the first place. They started in the first place so they could have a platform for amplifying the lessons of their own life, amplifying these experiences, sharing them so that they could create a community of people, of kindred spirits who could all relate to each other and feel a sense of belonging. And that's what YouTubers more often than not are referring to when they say, I couldn't do this without you. You're the reason I'm doing this. Yes, they are the reason they're doing this. But if you make YouTube your full-time job, if that is your sole source of income, then that paycheck is dangling over your head all the time too. That's a constant stress. So yeah, I have a community that I need to take care of, but I've got kids that need to eat. And since I've sacrificed, since I've forfeit every other source of income I had prior to being a YouTuber, I am accountable to that algorithm. I am accountable to that narcissist. I now have kids with that algorithm and I have to maintain that relationship, but they can't. So that brings me to sharing with you one of the main fundamental reasons on my channel, and a lot of my viewers, if you're one of my regular viewers on my channel, one of the reasons why I advocate so deeply for knowing who you are and making that the foundation of every creative decision that you make moving forward. Because whether you like it or not, in the end, you only own yourself. In the end, you are the only thing that can maintain yourself. You know where your energy comes from. You know the relationships that you need to have. You know the content that keeps you alive and gives you a sense of purpose. And you have to eventually realize that that's the most rewarding, meaningful, and most importantly, sustainable ways to maintain a long-term relationship with your work. It's the only way. So go back around 7-8 years ago on my channel. I decided at one point, exactly as I have in my own career, and I've spoken about that in my own career as artistic career advice, I decided to say, if I'm going to continue moving forward, this is my life, my creation, and I have to take a chance and do what feels right to me at the cost of potentially losing everything I think I stand to gain by making this decision. My audience is what matters to me. My sharing what matters to me and being the most authentic version of myself is what matters to me. I'm a YouTuber. The whole reason why I started YouTube in the first place, and the whole reason why I'm an artist in the first place, is that I could share what matters to me most. I could express myself in my most authentic way and be original, be unique. Feel like if you like something about my artwork, you're liking something about me, because my art is an extension of myself. And I said, no, my audience are artists. My audience have headphones on and they're listening to relaxing music and they're sitting there drawing and they're listening to somebody talking in their ear. That voice in their ear can't be loud and distracting and fast and clickbaity. No, that voice is pulling them inward rather than pulling them outward. It's helping them to focus rather than being flashing lights in their face. And I said, fuck this. That's going to be my videos moving forward. And even though I did so and published those videos with full knowledge that my channel was just going to tank, fuck it, YouTube isn't going to have any use for that whatsoever, the opposite happened. I was seen by the right people for the first time. By sharing my most authentic self, by being myself, all of a sudden, people no longer saw a YouTuber on the screen. They saw a person. Because people discovered Adam, not, oh, another art YouTuber, who gives a fuck? It's becoming oversaturated with art YouTubers. I knew that I could not make YouTube my full-time job. No, teaching online, my art school, that's my full-time job. I have students who expect something from me and I deliver that to them. And it's a one-on-one relationship, just like my YouTube channel. Okay? So YouTube, if your boss is YouTube, that boss is a shitty boss. And you need to put that into perspective. I highly recommend you find a side hustle. This is why sponsorships and partnerships and joining groups and stuff like that is very valuable. Because then you don't have to depend on YouTube's very chaotic personality. They're very inconsistent payout as far as that goes. But most importantly, you start to find yourself again. I think the video that really kind of took me a little bit by surprise the most, Caleb Pike from DSLR Video Shooter. He didn't quit. He didn't full out quit, but he said, I'm definitely changing the format of my stuff. And even though he's not an artist, he's a creator, and he said, I'm a builder. I love to build things, the rigs that he produces. Like he sets the precedent for the rest of it. He's like the godfather of cool camera and lighting setups. And he said, I need to be creative. I need to create. And building things, inventing things is the stuff that really excites me. It stimulates me. It keeps me coming back. That's where I really feel I have so much value to share. Maybe my audience is going to start tapping out. But you know what he said? I'm going to do it anyways. Come what may. And I thought, I was watching him and I said, good on you, mate. You figured it out. And I guarantee you, my guarantee to you is his channel's not going to suffer for it. His channel is going to grow for it, because you're going to see and feel the excitement and the innovation and the contribution of what he does so much more. But the very surprising thing about Caleb Pike was some of the things that came out of his mouth. And when I listened to some of the things that came out of his mouth, I went, wow, you really sound like you were in a seriously narcissistic relationship. He said he was getting anxiety attacks. He said he had to go through therapy. He said he never had a chance to spend time with his kids. He was really, really burnt out. He was constantly in a state of worry and concern about what YouTube needed from him. So my dear lady and gentlemen, if you're a creator, if you're an artist, if you're a tinkerer, if you're a builder, if you really do want to continue being a creator moving forward, then my promise to you is, if you're in this for the long run, then one way or another, it has to belong to you. And if you lose a sense of ownership, if you don't take that chance, if you don't take that risk and say, this is what I was put on the planet for, I discovered my creative self through this platform, well, now it's your time to make that sacrifice, to take that leap of faith and say, that's what I'm going to do. Just like Caleb did, I'm going to do it my way. That you are going to start to feel a sense of purpose. You're going to start to feel rejuvenated. You're going to start to feel like you don't need to depend on that narcissistic partner. You're starting to develop some independence from that relationship. And you can start to pull yourself out and start investing your energy towards the people that actually care. And the people who actually return that energy. Your audience. And they're the ones that do matter. You have something to help them grow. And that's your purpose. That's your purpose. To take your knowledge, to take your wisdom and help this world grow. My advice to you guys, for anybody who's considering quitting YouTube, my advice to you is don't. You're way too valuable. And the legacy that you're passing down to future generations of creators is massive. Don't pull out, but don't depend on YouTube as your source of income. You cannot depend on a narcissist because they're not dependable. You have to depend on yourself. You have to know who you are. You have to understand your true calling. It's your time now to recognize what makes you so valuable as an individual and put that foot forward and sever your ties with your financial dependencies on YouTube. I'm sure that any of you YouTubers out there listening, if you're not the type of people that only give a shit about algorithms and shit like that and have sold your soul a long time ago, but the people who really do care and the people who really do put their energy and their passion into what they do, they get mad sometimes. They get upset sometimes because they're trying so hard and they're so tired. That if you get an email or a comment from somebody who recognizes you and appreciates you for your hard work, doesn't that make it worth it? Doesn't it make it worth it to know that, hey, I shared something and they learned something from it? Or if I get an email from somebody who says how much they appreciate me and the message that I share on my channel, that really, really matters to me. It means that I'm not yelling into the void. It means that there's somebody who cares about what I shared. And they're returning that kindness in turn. That rejuvenates me. And I'm sure it rejuvenates you as well. And that's me to you today. Fellow creator, fellow artist, fellow tinkerer, thank you for being an integral part of the legacy of this creative platform. But now it's our time to leave the nest. It's your time to leave the nest and start walking on your own 2 feet. Start taking ownership of your creative self. And don't depend on anybody or anything that doesn't return that kindness. All right? With that said, happy 2024. I love you all with all my heart, and happy creating.